Hi, my name is Ben, and today I'm going to be going through the Shepherd's Pie Foodbank meal kit. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to just nicely brown off a few onions. So I'm just going to heat a pan to a medium heat. And then to that, it's just going to be one nicely chopped up onion and just a little splash of oil, about 2 teaspoons or so I'd say in there. So pan's just nice and kind of heated to a medium heat, and I'm just going to chuck in my one nicely cut up brown onion to that. And just a little bit of salt in there, just a tiny bit, about half pinch or so. The reason why I'm putting the salt in there is mainly just to kind of break down the onions. Salt draws moisture out, which will help them just kind of cook nicer and at a slower rate. For me, shepherd's pie is really just a kind of classic dish. It's got really the kind of nice, just flavoursome pie mixture with getting some carrots in there, some peas, onions, and then just a big bit of beef mince and some thyme to kind of round it out. And then I think everyone loves mashed potato and cheese on top, baked to crispy golden. So for me, really, it's just one of those things that's just absolutely delicious. Cooking my onions, just always going to keep an eye on them and keep them kind of moving around. Don't let them get it too hot, and you don't really want to let them catch with this recipe, because with these onions we're going to cook them in this pan, and then directly after that we're going to add the beef mince. So you just got to kind of keep that in mind and not fry the onions. You just want to get them to kind of nice, translucent, and a little bit of colour. And that will take about 4 minutes, 5 minutes to be honest. Alright, so my onions are pretty much getting there. That's really the state I really wanted to get at. So now I'm going to add 500 grams of beef mince. Pop that in. And then just break that up as well. And then once we've gotten that kind of broken up and starting to caramelise, I'm just going to turn it up to about a medium-high heat. I'm going to put on my oven to 200 degrees to get that preheating. So you see these little bits here, and it's kind of like sticking to the bottom of your pan. Just turn your heat down a little bit and then just add a bit of oil, just so it doesn't stick so much. So with this mince, just kind of breaking it up, and we just want to brown it nicely. It's about cooking it, and it's just so that, look, the texture doesn't have to be completely even, but we don't want those big kind of chunks of mince that you get. That would be kind of weird and won't be nicely kind of season that meat flavour throughout. And then also we want a bit of that caramelisation on the bottom too. One of the great things about Foodbank is that the fresh fruit and veg is free at the food hubs. So really, these recipes can add so much to them. Things like zucchini, things like fresh carrots, even things like you can add some broccoli, broccolini, asparagus, things like that. Really, you can add to this kind of base, and it'll really just boost that flavour, and then also be a lot healthier and get your dietary requirements far better. So that mince is kind of nice and brown, and we're going to add the peas and carrots. And 1 can of chopped tomatoes as well. Now, before you add your tomatoes, if you've got some stock at home or some wine, you can do something called deglazing, which is kind of getting that bottom of all those nice caramelised bits off the bottom of your pan. But today we're just going to do it straight with tomatoes and deglaze with that. Now with that mixture, it's going to give a nice stir, and then we're going to bring that up to just a nice gentle simmer for about 20 minutes or so. So to that mixture, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of thyme. There's other herbs you can add to this as well. Rosemary will work well. I just use about 1 teaspoon. Oregano would work well as well. Dried parsley if you have it. Give that a mix through. And then on a very soft simmer, we're just kind of let those flavors get to know each other is the best way to describe it. If it's ever looking a bit too dry, like you see how that's kind of nice and moist in there, just add, a little bit more stock if you've got it, or just water, just to kind of top it up to make sure it doesn't catch at the bottom, because this is going to be cooked again. So you got to kind of keep that in mind, is that you don't want it too wet, but you don't want it too dry, because so when you go and cook it, it kind of just becomes like a gritty texture instead of that kind of nice luscious pie texture that you want. So, well, they get to know each other in there. I'm going to move on to making some mashed potatoes. So I've got a nice pan up to the boil here, and I'm just going to add 6 potatoes in there. With the potatoes, we're just going to cook them until knife tender. So you just want it so that a butter knife is kind of easily pierced through and goes all the way through. That'll take about 15 to 20 minutes. Look, it will depend on the size of your potatoes, type of your potatoes. So it's really just kind of up to you. You can also halve them, you can peel them if you don't want those kind of skins in, but I've just done it nice and quite rustic today. So those potatoes just easily pierced with that butter knife, so they're nice and ready, so I'm just going to drain them. And then just make sure you remove most of the moisture, just because any of that water is going to kind of add into the mix as well. So just a strong potato masher. I'm going to start by adding just a little bit of butter or margarine or whatever spread you have to it. Now, different to kind of normal mashed potato, you don't want it too wet, mainly just because it's got to bake and kind of become crispy on top, so that's the kind of important thing. Again, it's not going to be perfectly smooth, anything like that, like if you've gone out and had a nice restaurant meal with beautiful, fluffy, light mashed potato. We've got those skins on there, but that's actually going to make it, A, a lot healthier. There's a lot of nutrients in potato skins. B, less waste. And C, it adds a little bit of texture. Like if you've got those potato skins kind of sticking up when you bake it, that should go really nice and crispy. If you've got leftover potato skins from something that you've made, or you made mashed potato and you decided to peel it, you can actually bake them if you just put a little bit of olive oil on them in the oven, 180 degrees, and they kind of become nice, crispy potato chips. With the mashing, you obviously can do it in another bowl, but most important thing about cooking is minimizing washing up. So doing it in the same pot just makes your life a little bit easier at the end of the night. Right, with that mash, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just going to add a little bit of salt to it, just for flavour, and then just a little bit more of that butter or margarine spread, just to kind of loosen it up a bit and make it not so firm, so it's going to be easy to spread on top. Now with mashed potato, the other very important thing is never do it in a food processor, blender, anything like that. If you do that, the unfortunate thing that will happen is it'll become insanely gluey. It'll pretty much become like Play-Doh, like glue. Just because of the starches in the potato, it just makes it firm up and become quite gross. So to me, that's pretty smooth and the texture I want. And it does have those skins in there, but like I said, that's just going to add some more flavour and some more texture to the final dish. This, the actual shepherd's pie mixture is nice and kind of reduced, and all those flavours have really got to know each other. So ready to assemble the shepherd's pie. So simply just take that mixture that's nice and kind of well incorporated and combined, the flavours have got to know each other, and just pour that straight in. Make sure to get absolutely everything out of there. Since there's no waste putting that delicious mixture down the drain or in your dishwasher to clog up. And then just kind of smooth it out, just so it's nice and even. And add that mashed potato. So the way I like to do it is kind of do a couple of big bits together and then smooth them all in together. So just imagine it kind of like making bridges between hills is the easiest way that I guess I can describe it. And for me, some people, pipe it on or do all that fancy stuff. Overly, look, not necessary. The major reason for piping is what we're going to achieve next. I also like to have some of the kind of mixture come up because I feel like that adds like a different kind of flavour and that caramelizes nice on top too. So what we'll do next is use a little fork and then run it through. And why we're doing that is to kind of create edges and ridges so that while it bakes, those bits get nice and crispy. Right, so that's the kind of surface you want. Nice and rough, nice and lots of bits are going to kind of catch. And then we're just going to finish that off with some grated cheese that comes in the pack as well. And then just sprinkle that over the top, nice and evenly. And then we'll pop that into our preheated oven at 200 degrees and let that bake for about 15 to 20 minutes.
This has been a Cabana
production.